Exchange at 25 Broad, sponsor of this webcast, invites you to visit our remastered model residences. And also sponsored in part by Trump Mortgage.
Good day. I'm Abby Overton, and this is The Real Deal. At the top of the news, 2 Paramount Group buildings are on the block for $1 billion. Extel Development sells its East Village properties for $97.5 million, and developer Harry Macklowe plunks down $68 million for several Plaza residences. That and more on The Real Deal webcast this week. But first, some highlights from our weekly interview. More than 50 hotels will be built in the city over the next 3 years, many of them in the budget category, some boutiques, and some cheap and chic. Real Deal reporter Jen Benepi spoke to Eric Anton, executive director of Eastern Consolidated, about where the market is heading. Here are some highlights from that interview.
We talked numbers before this interview. 8,000 new hotel rooms expected by 2009, and half will be budget-oriented. Why this instead of luxury?
Developers have realized that by limiting the services and the food and beverage business in the hotels, the profitability is much higher.
There also seems to be a trend towards boutique hotels, smaller, classier, and more expensive. Is that the way to go in Manhattan? For example, Jason Pomerantz's Six Columbus, and now also in Brooklyn, Dominic Tannacchio's Hotel Le Bleu?
Yes, most of these projects are pretty small as 20 or 30 rooms. Oftentimes they're 80 to 100 rooms. One of the reasons is it's very hard to get large sites in New York City.
10 years from now, where do you see the hotel business?
I think in all markets of the hotel business, we're going to see a trend to increasing technology use.
For the whole interview, click on the link below. And now for the news. Developer Paramount Group is looking to sell 2 of its Manhattan office buildings totaling more than $1 billion. One of the properties is 220 West 42nd Street, Clear Channel's Times Square headquarters, and likely to go for upwards of $200 million. The other property, One Financial Square at 32 Old Slip, could bring in up to $800 million. Extel Development sold 17 East Village buildings to Westbrook Partners for $97.5 million last week. It is not clear whether Extel, which acquired the portfolio of small residential properties early last year for $72 million, always intended to flip the holdings, or whether the developer has abandoned longer-term plans. Developer Harry Macklowe is in contract to buy a number of units at the Plaza that he intends to combine into a single large home, said sources. Macklowe needs to make one more purchase before building his giant residence, and he will likely be spending around $68 million for all the Plaza purchases combined. One of the Landmark's brokers says units are going for a record $6,500 per square foot. 2 Middle Eastern investment firms, Qatar Investment Authority and Istithmar, are in a bidding war to buy the Barney's New York chain. Sources close to the deal say the luxury apparel chain could go for as much as $1.4 billion, much more than the $1 to $1.2 billion Barney's owner Jones Apparel Group was expecting for the stores. Rock Rose Development Corp. is in contract to purchase 230 Park Avenue South for $230 million from Mickey Rabina and a limited partnership of former Lazard Frères investment bankers. The 19th Street building is fully leased to Young and Rubicam. The state legislature is expected soon to pass a highly contested version of a bill that revamps the 421A tax abatement program. The bill is expected to incorporate significant changes that affect residential construction recommended by the City Council last December. Chief among them, at least 20% of new units in a development must constitute affordable housing on the site of that development. Starchitect Frank Gehry will design his first New York City playground for the Battery. Said Parks Commissioner Adrian Benepi, it is fitting that the Battery, the birthplace of New York, will be home to another first. The Federal District Court in Brooklyn last week dismissed a lawsuit brought by opponents of the Atlantic Yards project. The suit challenged the proposed use of eminent domain to seize homes and businesses in order to make way for Forest City Ratner's Stadium Housing Office Complex in Prospect Heights. The judge's ruling overturns a prior court recommendation that the lawsuit belonged in state and not federal court. The plaintiffs plan to appeal. Some of New York's most respected brokers have started a charitable organization that they say is the first of its kind. Brokers Build is trying to raise $1 million for a Habitat for Humanity project in Brooklyn by asking for donations from every broker citywide. The group has already received more than $30,000 since launching its website last week, according to Stan Ponte, chairman of Brokers Build and president of Coldwell Banker Previews International. Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Real Deals webcast. Remember to click on the link below for this week's interview. Please join us next week for the latest real estate news. I'm Abby Overton, and this is The Real Deal.